The plane was dropping fast over the Pacific. 298 people had minutes left. Then, on a secure military frequency, Black Hawk pilots heard something that made them go silent. A calm voice cut through the static. Retired U.S. Navy SEAL. Call sign Reaper. I am taking control. The ocean below was dark and endless. The sky above was clear. And somewhere between them, Flight 619 was falling. It started with a small shake. Then a loud bang. Then the nose of the plane tilted forward and the descent began. Captain James Merritt grabbed the controls. His co-pilot Carter pressed buttons and pulled levers. Nothing worked the way it should. The hydraulic system was damaged. The plane was losing altitude fast. Below them was the Pacific Ocean. Around them, 298 passengers had no idea how bad things really were. The intercom crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are experiencing some technical difficulties. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Our crew is working on the situation. That was the polite version. The real version was this. The plane had dropped 4,000 feet in less than 3 minutes. At this rate, they had less than 20 minutes before they hit the water. 200 miles away, 3 U.S. Navy Black Hawk helicopters were flying a routine patrol route over the Pacific. Inside the lead helicopter, Chief Warrant Officer Dana Reyes was scanning her instruments when the radio crackled on the military guard frequency, the emergency channel that military aircraft always monitor. She held up a hand. Her co-pilot, Lieutenant Holt, went quiet immediately. The voice on the radio was calm, too calm for what it was saying. This is a civilian aircraft, Flight 619, Tokyo to San Francisco. We are losing altitude over the Pacific. Approximately 298 souls on board. Aircraft is not responding normally to controls. I am a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. Call sign Reaper. I need contact with any military asset in the area. Over. Reyes and Holt looked at each other. For one full second, neither of them spoke. Then Holt said quietly, "Did she just say call sign Reaper?" Reyes was already reaching for the transmit button. Her hand was steady, but her mind was moving fast. She had heard the name before. Every naval aviator in the Pacific had heard the name. Reaper was not a myth. Reaper was a real operator who had done real things in real places. Things that did not appear in any public record but traveled through military circles the way important things always do. Quietly, accurately, and with weight. Flight 619, this is Black Hawk lead from USS Ronald Reagan Battle Group. Reyes said into the radio. We have you on radar. You are descending at approximately 800 feet per minute. Please confirm. Did you say call sign Reaper? Over. The response came back without hesitation. One word. Confirmed. In the back of the Black Hawk, the crew chief, Petty Officer Marcus Webb, leaned forward. He had been in the Navy for 9 years. He had heard a lot of things on military radios. He had never heard anything like this. A civilian plane, falling toward the ocean. And on the other end of the line, Reaper. What do we do? Holt asked. Reyes was already switching frequencies to reach the carrier. We get the Reagan moving, she said. Right now. In seat 22A on Flight 619, the woman who had just made that radio call walked back from the galley and sat down as if nothing had happened. Her name was Sarah Cole. She wore no brand jeans, a plain gray hoodie, and running shoes. Her hair was pulled back. No jewelry, no makeup. She looked like someone's schoolteacher, maybe a librarian, someone you would pass in an airport and forget before you reached the gate. The man next to her in 22B was gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles had gone white. That doesn't sound good, he said, nodding toward the window where the plane was visibly tilting. Sarah did not answer. Her eyes moved to the front of the cabin, then to the emergency exits, then back to her hands. Her face was completely calm. Not the calm of someone who was not afraid. The calm of someone who had been afraid so many times, in so many real situations, that the feeling had stopped controlling her a long time ago. Sarah Cole had spent 11 years in the United States Navy. 8 of those years in naval special warfare. She was a SEAL, one of the very few women to complete the full combat qualification course. Her call sign, given to her by her teammates after a mission in Libya, was Reaper. She had retired 6 months ago. A bad knee. Worse memories. The last mission had gone wrong in a way that she still could not talk about without her hands shaking. 3 good people had not come home. She carried that. She planned to keep carrying it somewhere quiet. A small apartment in California. A job teaching children to swim. Long days on research boats studying coral reefs. She was going home on this flight. That plan was now looking complicated. The shaking got worse. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Passengers screamed. A baby started crying somewhere in the back rows. An old man near the front was praying quietly with his hands folded. Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt. "Ma'am, please remain seated," a flight attendant said immediately. "I need to use the galley phone," Sarah said. She walked forward before anyone could stop her. She had already used the emergency radio once. Now she needed to talk to the cockpit directly. She knocked on the door. Twice, then once, and it opened. Captain Merritt looked at her with tired eyes. "Who are you?" "Someone who just got the military on the line," Sarah said. "Tell me what happened to this plane." The hydraulic system had partially failed after what appeared to be a bird strike on the left engine. The engine was still running, but the damage had affected the flight controls. The plane could still fly, but every input gave a delayed and unpredictable response. Turning and descending were dangerous. "Can you land it?" Sarah asked. Merritt looked at his co-pilot. Carter had a cut on his forehead from hitting the console during the initial drop. "We can try," Merritt said, "but the nearest runway is Midway Island. At this fuel burn rate, I don't think we make it." Sarah turned back to the galley and picked up the radio. "Black Hawk lead. What is the position of the nearest carrier?" Reyes answered immediately. She had already been working this. "USS Ronald Reagan is 140 miles from your position and moving toward you at full speed. Deck is being cleared now. Admiral Cho has authorized emergency operations." "But Reaper," a brief pause. "A commercial aircraft has never landed on a carrier. The approach angle is different. The speed requirements are different. The stopping distance." "I understand the math," Sarah said. "Is the deck going to be ready?" "Yes." "Then get me your landing signal officers." Back in the cabin, the flight attendants were doing their best. They moved through the rows calmly, checking seatbelts, speaking quietly, trying to keep 298 people from falling apart completely. In row 14, a young mother held her daughter close. The little girl was wearing a yellow shirt with a duck on it. She was 3 years old and did not understand what was happening. She had stopped crying because her mother was singing to her. A soft, quiet song that nobody else could hear. In row 7, an elderly couple sat with their hands folded together. They had been married for 52 years. They did not speak. They did not need to. Near the back, a teenage boy was trying to send a message on his phone. No signal. He stared at the screen for a long moment, then put the phone in his pocket and looked out the window at the ocean. 298 people. Every one of them with somewhere to be. Someone waiting for them. Sarah knew this. She did not look back at the cabin. She did not need to. She had made her decision the moment she heard the first scream. She went back to the cockpit and explained the plan the same way she used to brief her team before a mission. Facts first. Options second. The plan third. "You want us to land on a carrier," Merritt said. "I want us to land somewhere that is not the ocean," Sarah said. "The carrier is the option we have." Carter, the co-pilot, nodded slowly. "I've read about carrier approaches. The angle. The speed. The wire. The LSOs will talk you through every second," Sarah said. "Your only job is to listen and do exactly what they say. Can you do that?" Both pilots nodded. "Good," Sarah said. "Then let's go." She got back on the radio. "Black Hawk lead, we are proceeding to carrier approach. Connect me to LSOs now." Reyes, still in the Black Hawk cockpit 200 miles away, allowed herself one small breath. Then she started making the calls. For the next 35 minutes, Sarah stood at the cockpit doorway, one hand on the frame, one on the radio, and served as the link between two commercial pilots and a team of military specialists who guided aircraft onto moving decks for a living. The landing signal officers spoke in short, clean sentences. Speed 142 knots. Nose up slightly. Correct right. Hold. Hold. Good. The two pilots listened. They responded. They flew a damaged plane with precise and careful hands. Through the windshield, the carrier appeared first as a gray line on the dark water. Then it grew. Then it filled the entire view. A massive ship moving steadily forward. Its deck lights on. The crew ready. Visual on the deck, Sarah said into the radio. Confirmed, said the LSO. 2 miles out. Speed 138. Angle is good. Hold everything exactly as it is. Do not change anything. Here we go. The ocean rushed up on both sides. The deck came toward them fast. Cut throttle. Now. Merritt pulled the throttles back. The main gear hit the deck with a crash that shook the entire aircraft. The tail hook caught the first wire. The plane stopped in 4 seconds, from 138 knots to 0, and every passenger lurched hard against their seatbelt. Bags fell. Someone in row 9 screamed. A cup hit the floor. Then silence. 1 full second of complete silence. Then the cabin erupted. Crying. Laughing. Strangers hugging strangers. The little girl in row 14 in the yellow shirt clapped her hands because everyone around her was happy and she wanted to be happy too. The elderly couple in row 7 were still holding hands. The old man near the front had stopped praying. His eyes were closed and he was smiling. In the cockpit, Captain Merritt put his forehead down on the controls and stayed there for a long moment. Carter sat back in his seat and stared at the ceiling. "We made it," Carter said. Sarah walked back through the cabin. She did not say anything. Passengers reached for her arm as she passed. A touch, a hand squeeze, someone who just grabbed her sleeve and held it for a second. They did not know exactly what she had done. They just knew, somehow, that this quiet woman in the gray hoodie had been the steady thing in the center of all of it. She sat back down in 22A. The man in 22B stared at her. "What just happened?" "We landed," Sarah said. She picked up her book and found her page. Later, on the deck of the USS Ronald Reagan as the sun set over the Pacific, Admiral Cho shook her hand. The ship's crew stood in a wide circle around them, quiet. "The pilots did the work," Sarah said. "They did," the Admiral agreed. "But you held the line between them and us. You knew the procedures. You made the call that needed to be made." He paused. "We know your record, Commander Cole. We know who Reaper is. The Navy would have you back. Any role, any team." Sarah looked out at the ocean. The same water that had nearly swallowed 298 people a few hours ago was golden now in the evening light. "I appreciate that," she said. "But I'm going home." "To do what?" "Teach kids to swim. Study reefs. Stay quiet." A pause. "Unless something comes up." The Admiral looked at her for a moment. Then he nodded. He understood. 200 miles away, in the cockpit of a Black Hawk helicopter heading back to the carrier, Chief Warrant Officer Dana Reyes took off her helmet and set it in her lap. Holt was flying. The Pacific was dark below them. "You know what I keep thinking about?" Holt said. "What?" She called on a commercial aircraft emergency radio, on our guard frequency, with 298 people going down around her. He shook his head slowly. "And she sounded like she was ordering coffee." Reyes looked out at the water for a long moment. "That's why the call sign is Reaper," she said. 3 days later, all 298 passengers were home. The story ran on every major news channel in the world. The military released one short statement. A civilian with specialized training had assisted the flight crew in an emergency. No name was given. In a small apartment in Santa Cruz, California, a woman in a gray hoodie made coffee, sat at a desk near a window that looked out over the ocean, and opened a book about coral reefs. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just coordinates and 4 words. Cargo ship. Crew hostage. Sarah looked at the coordinates. She looked at the ocean outside her window. She thought about the little girl in the yellow shirt. The elderly couple. The teenage boy with the phone and no signal. She set her coffee down. She typed back, "Send me the full brief. I will review it tonight." Some people find peace and stay there. That is a beautiful thing. But some people carry a specific kind of skill, one that took years to build, that costs something real to earn, and that can only be used in certain moments when every other option is gone. Sarah Cole was not looking for trouble. She never had been. But trouble had a way of finding the one person in the room, or on the plane, or on the radio, or in seat 22A with a book about coral reefs who could actually fix it. And when it did, Reaper answered.